I fell so hard in love, and I had never had a man pursue me like he did.
2 months later, we were engaged. 4 months later, we were married.
We walked up to the aisle, we said I do. It was a huge party, such a blast. Nato wore flip-flops for the wedding. Horrible choice. We were all in. And we were just so in love. It was perfect.
A year had gone on, and over that year, I had started a new career. I was able to bury myself into this new career because I was doing well at it and it felt good and was getting accolades.
There came a point when he was working so much. I was becoming increasingly more unhappy, I think because I was watching him grow farther apart from the Lord. And so I was thinking, hold on, we are not going in the same direction.
What started out as an innocent, friendship with a coworker turned into a one-night stand. I just cheated on my wife. I just had an affair. I realized that, there's no way anybody can ever find out about this. I'm gonna bury this. I'm not gonna tell anybody. How could I have done this? I'm this Christian.
We were in accountability. We were doing all the things that Christians do and that you're supposed to do. So I couldn't make the connection between why is he feeling different to me, but we're doing all the good Christian things.
I was lost. At that point, I didn't care. I was miserable. I meet someone else, and it was way more intentional. And so I begin this other relationship outside of my marriage.
It was a really alone time. I'm having children, I'm alone, I don't sleep, and no one's helping me. I just didn't understand that level of unhappiness with him. I just had always loved him so much, and then all of a sudden I didn't know him. And he wasn't really interested in knowing me anymore either.
And I thought I was juggling both worlds really great. I thought I was really great at juggling it. Was willing to do whatever I needed just to make myself happy.
I figured out that Nato was not going to make me happy, and I would not be satisfied in him. And so the only thing I had was to ask God if he would help me. And I had never been at that place where I needed the Lord that much. I needed help.
I remember having moments where I would come home and I'd see Jamie taking care of the kids, in our home, and I'd have this moment of man, she's just so amazing. What am I doing? It was in those moments, God was trying to get my attention back, and I would just kind of acknowledge it, but then go back on my way to whatever it is that I was planning on doing.
So he came home one afternoon. I said, why don't we just take a nap? You are so tired, let's rest. Right before he fell asleep, his phone dinged. I was already kind of asleep on his shoulder, but it woke me up, and he looked at his phone and it had a woman's name on it. And then he immediately looked at me, because it's kind of laying on his shoulder, and I closed my eyes and acted like I didn't see it. But I knew that is not normal. He put his phone down and fell asleep. I kept hearing the Lord say, now's the time, check, look at his phone. It's right there, look at his phone. And I thought, no, I'm not like a sheriff. I'm not that person. I'm not gonna do that. The more I denied looking at his phone, the harder my heart beat. I looked at his phone and it was a bunch of text messages that were like, honey, babe. I thought it was to me, but it had someone else's name on it. They were in a relationship. I just stopped feeling, and it felt like I just floated out of my body. So weird. I went into the bedroom, and he woke up and was so surprised because he saw I had his phone, his precious phone, and he sat at the end of the bed, and I said, you are a bad person, and I don't know you anymore. And he just hunched over and looked at the floor.
I remember sitting on the edge of the bed and feeling like my ears popping. And it was literally like these kingdoms that I had built were just falling down. I was numb.
And I got on my knees to look under at his eyes, and I said, "Go pack your kids' bags." I just didn't know what else to say.
So I packed their bags and she went to her mom's.
I just melted into my dad's arms, and he said, "You can stay here as long as you need, and we'll take care of the kids." And he's an attorney, so that sucked for Nato, but we were gonna ruin his life. Like, this is embarrassing, and now everyone's gonna think I was a terrible wife and I wasn't good enough.
Yeah, I'd gotten caught, so it wasn't like I had this like conviction of God, change me now, you know. I was caught. You go into fix-it mode, like, what do I say? How do I look? How do I fix it? But then part of me was like, screw it. I should just continue on, you know, Jami and the kids would be better off without me.
I decided I would get a divorce and start over. I was young and I had a lot of life to live, and I had 2 great kids.
Our pastor stepped in and said, hey, like, we don't know where you're at. You say one thing and another thing comes up, and we want to believe you, but we can't. So we need to like start looking out for Jami and the kids, and we're going to turn you over to whatever it is you think you want, and we're going to trust that God's going to do whatever it is that he needs to do in your heart without us, but we got to look out for Jami right now. So they have me move in to this gentleman who was like this John Wayne version man of God, like just loved the Lord deeply. He took me in, waking up every morning in that house without my kiddos, without Jami. And I remember like that struggle of like trying to make this make sense. Like, marriages fail all the time. It's okay. I'll see my kids every other weekend. It's okay.
I remember sitting down in the therapist's office. I just wept. I cried so hard in that chair. No one had told me that I couldn't have been pretty enough or funny enough or smart enough or enough for a man who was set on going wayward. I thought I had failed in some great way and I wasn't good enough, so he had to go choose someone else.
There was still something in me that was like, what are you doing, man? Where are you going? Is this really that much better? Is this really worth it?
I felt like God asked me to be obedient. He said, "You're not going to understand this, but I want you to stay around." I thought, well, there's no way I can actually do that. So you'll have to work a miracle because that's not going to work for me. So I hope you pull through. But right before all of that happened, I wrote a verse on the chalkboard. It said, "Be kind and tenderhearted towards one another, forgiving each other like God in Christ forgave you." When I was arguing with the Lord, I felt like God showed me that verse and brought that to my mind and said, "Now, how did I forgive you?" I thought, well, while we were still sinners, Christ forgave us. And I just thought, you got me. I remember God really speaking to me like, you are your husband. Now, if you are your husband and I welcome you as my daughter every day, even though you chase after everything, so many things, and I still love you and I call you daughter and I forgive you, what does that mean for you? So it was really hard to turn around and strangle someone for $5 when I knew that I owed $1 million. It was a miracle. I worked through so much forgiveness. I think I wanted an apology from him, but God asked me to forgive him without an apology because that's how God forgave me. I have to forgive him, but like, what does this mean? So I didn't have the answers, but I knew I was just supposed to do that day, forgive that minute, and go minute by minute.
I needed to be in a place where it no longer was about getting my wife back, seeing my kids again, keeping my career or my reputation. Like, it had to be just about God. And as God was like changing my heart, like that was where it got to the point to where I realized that I couldn't do this on my own. Like, the only thing that I was gonna do was screw it up. So I remember finally falling on my knees and just thinking, okay, God, I need you to do this. Like, I need you to be enough. I need you to be everything. I just need you.
Deep down, I wanted it to work. I just didn't know if it could work.
God was so persistent with me. He wouldn't let me get away with anything. Jami's saying things like, I do forgive you. I want to work on this. And that's blowing my mind away. Like, here's this woman who I've like done the worst thing ever to, and she's telling me that she still loves me and wants to take me back. It made no sense to me. Because of Jami's obedience in saying that she would forgive me and that she loved me, that was a tangible example of the gospel to me. Because it was like, if this woman is willing to do that, what does that even mean about our God? And that just blew my mind away. Like, it broke down all those walls that I had built up. It was life-changing. I'm ready, God. Like, whatever you want me to do, like, I'm ready. And I just remember having this confidence and knowing like God was gonna blow our minds. He was gonna make it new.
One day he came walking down the street and I had a baby on my hip and a toddler playing in the yard. And he said, if you'll have me back, I'd love to come home. I'm married to you for the rest of my life. You can move on. You can go get remarried. You can do whatever you want to do, but I will never stop pursuing you for the rest of my life. I'm done. This is it. You can take me back or not, but I'm sticking with it. And so, although slightly stalkerish, I agreed that it was time for him to come home. When someone is repentant and changed, you just see it. It's like glowing on them. So it was a process, but once I had my mind made up, we moved forward.
Like, I remember just like feeling so thankful and in love with Jami, but also like realizing the amount of pain that I had caused.
When he first came home, it's like another honeymoon stage, but bittersweet, because I was so happy he was back, but then I would just get slammed by a memory or something. I stopped slapping God's hand away when he would give me a memory, or I would see a picture, and I would think, well, he was lying during that time. It was all a lie. This is fake. I've lived a whole lie. And God saying, actually, this is an opportunity for you to forgive him for that time he did that. It's a picture to remind you of God's forgiveness towards you. At first, I described it as a roller coaster. A really fast-moving roller coaster, up and down all the time. I never knew which emotion would come, and it was just being exhausted and not knowing if you can show up for your marriage and wondering if you made the right decision and just relying on God's promise.
So sitting in that place, chasing after him, going to counseling like 2-3 times a week, God did this miracle and started to like save our marriage.
I always tell people time is your friend, and it doesn't make it go away. Grief is always there, but it comes at smaller increments and over larger periods of time. I could have chosen a different route. I could have gotten remarried. We could live a totally different life right now. We could have 2 sets of families. I wouldn't have Penelope or Pruitt. We wouldn't have the experiences we have now. And I could have forfeited that if I had not been obedient and had not listened to God's voice. We're so thankful to be together because we know how much we could have lost.
Whether it was a career, satisfaction, a relationship, money, like it would just never be enough. Without Jesus, it's nothing. It's only gonna last so long.
It really made me look inward and do the work of seeing myself for who I am, which is darker than I thought I was and more sinful than I thought I was. I kind of thought I was an A+ Christian. I was gonna help God do some great stuff, and He had other plans in which I would lose everything that was important to know how much He saved me from, and to know His character is redemption. His character is saving things that everyone thought were lost.